Hello, friends. Welcome to the Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum. The Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum was launched in September 2022 by the MOSI, which is an association formed by Indian scholars who spent a year or more doing research in Japan. The objectives of the forum are to explore, document, and to bring to light the lesser known or under researched aspects of historical and cultural interactions between India and Japan, and disseminate the findings through lectures, seminars, conferences, publications, and social media. In a span of 4 years, the forum has held one international symposium, 3 international conferences, and the papers from the first 2 conferences are already published in form of books and are also accessible on the internet. The Kizuna Forum also holds lectures on monthly basis. Today's talk by Anakana Bag is the 27th held under Kizuna lecture series. She will be speaking on Bengali travelers in 19th century Japan, P.C. Mozoomdar and Krishnalal Bysack. Let me welcome and introduce the speaker. Anakana Bag is presently pursuing PhD at Center of Comparative Literature, Vishwa Bharati, West Bengal, India. In fact, I am told that she has already submitted her thesis. Have you, Anakana? Good, congratulations.
Yes.
She completed her MPhil in Comparative Literature in 2020. The broad area of her research consists of Bangla travel writings authored during the 19th and early 20th century. Her interests are focused on East Asian popular culture and literature. Welcome, Anakana, to the Kizuna Forum. And now let me introduce the chair. Dr. Sudipta Das is an assistant professor in the Department of Japanese, Vishwa Bharati, West Bengal, India. He did PhD in Japanese at Vishwa Bharati and was a JSPS postdoctoral fellow at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. He was awarded grant for Japan-related research in Asia by the Sumitomo Foundation. His research interest relates to lesser-known historical connections between India and Japan. And now I request Dr. Das to conduct the session and take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 27th Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum monthly lecture. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to Prof.Sushila Narsimhan, Dr. Ashok Jain, and the entire Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum for organizing this important academic platform that continuously strengthens the intellectual and cultural exchanges between India and Japan. Today's lecture, Bengali Travelers in 19th Century Japan, P.C. Mozoomdar and Krishnalal offers us an opportunity to revisit an important yet relatively unexplored chapter in the history of India-Japan interactions. The 19th century was a period of profound transformation across Asia. Japan was opening itself to the world following the Meiji Restoration, while Bengal was experiencing significant social, intellectual, and cultural movements often referred to as Bengal Renaissance. During this period, travel narratives emerged as important mediums through which people encountered, interpreted, and represent foreign societies. The journeys and writings of Bengali travelers such as P.C. Mozoomdar and Krishnalal are particularly valuable because they provide first-hand observation of Japan at crucial moment in this modernization. Their accounts not only document their experiences but also reveal how educated Indians perceived Japan's rapid progress, social organization, cultural values, and engagement with modernity. These travel narratives played a significant role in shaping Indian understanding of Japan and contributed to broader discussion on nationalism, cultural identity, and Asian solidarity. Long before formal diplomatic relations were established, such as intellectual and cultural exchanges helped create bridge of mutual understanding between our two countries. We are fortunate to have with us today Ms. Anakana Bag, whose research focus on Bengali travel writings to the 19th and early 20th centuries. Her works brings together literary analysis, cultural history, and cross-cultural encounters, making her particularly well suited to guide us through this fascinating topic. Her interest in East Asian literature and culture further enriches her perspective on historical interactions between Bengal and Japan. During the celebration marking the 70th anniversary of India-Japan diplomatic relations, she delivered a thought-provoking lecture on P.C. Mozoomdar, introducing many audiences members to a relatively lesser-known yet significant figures in the history of Indo-Japanese connections. Today, by bringing together the contribution of both P.C. Mozoomdar and Krishnalal, she promised to shed new light on an important chapter of India-Japan relations and open new avenues for scholarly discussion. I am confident that today's lecture will deepen our understanding of early Indo-Japanese connections and encourage further exploration of tribal literature as an important source for studying cultural encounters and intellectual history. I thank all participants for joining us and encourage everyone to actively engage during the discussion session that will follow the presentation. I welcome Ankona to present his paper.
Thank you, Sudipta, and thank you, Professor Sushila Narsimhan, for the introduction. I am honored to be here, and I thank Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum for the opportunity to present my research. I thank Professor Ashok Jain, and I am very grateful to Professor Sushila Narsimhan for inviting me and keeping up correspondences and being patient with me when my responses were delayed. I also thank Dr. Sudipta Dash for chairing this session. I will start to share my screen before I begin the presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So today I will be talking about Bengali travel writings on Japan, which has been a much discussed topic in the field of Indo-Japanese relations. But I will be talking about two 19th century texts. Sorry, it slipped. Yes. 19th century texts, a time frame when texts about Japan were rare in the Bengali literary scenario. People-to-people contact in the pre-colonial and colonial eras through literature, like travel writing, are matters of significant study in the present globalized post-colonial age as well, because travel writings blend observation with narrative to illustrate how identities are constructed, while simultaneously negotiating ideas of change and power dynamics, informing post-colonial critiques of self and otherness. In the 19th century, just as Japan came out of its self-isolation in 1868, Bengal too had to struggle against religious bans on travels across the sea. So when Meiji era began, only a handful of people from the so-called upper class and the emergent upper middle class Bengal had traveled to Europe, as these bans became significantly lighter with the advent of colonial modernity and colonial education. Bengalis traveling to East Asia did not happen until the last few decades of the 19th century. Before that, the information about East Asia reached the Bengali readership the same way information about other faraway countries reached, through Persian texts, English texts, and translations of English texts into Bengali. The earliest text on Japan in Bengali was published in 1863, 5 years before the Meiji era started in Japan. It was a translation of Commodore Matthew Perry's account of his expedition to Japan in 1854 and 1855, containing his own perception of the country and its people. Inevitably, it colored the perception of the Bengali readers too, which was reflected in the Bengali texts that followed well into the 20th century. So, when people did start traveling to East Asia, Japan was the East Asian country that saw the most Bengali visitors. Articles in Bengali periodicals attest to that. One example is in the Probashi Party periodical, published in 1908, where an article titled Japane Bharatiyo Chhatrer Koto Bhay Hoy, or how what are the expenses of an Indian student in Japan, was published. So in an article like that, all the possible expenses were listed item by item by a student who had already been living in Japan for 2 to 3 years. And there were also directions to how to save up money for coming to Japan for entrepreneurship, learning entrepreneurship, or for studentship. And so in this way there were different kinds of articles that focused on Japan. So why was traveling to Japan important for people from Bengal? At first it wasn't important. Initially, during the 19th century, Japan held a similar status to other countries except England in the Bengali consciousness. It was perceived as a novel and fascinating destination, but not of any special importance. But at that point of time, the remarkable victory of Japan over Russia in 1905 and the concurrent onset of Swadeshi movement in Bengal were still events that lay in the future. However, from the early 20th century, Japan became closely associated with the ideals of nationalism and national progress among those who had visited the country. These individuals regarded Japan as a model for Bengal's own aspirations, a perspective that was propagated through both original and translated texts. Japan was extensively represented to the Bengali readership through a variety of periodical articles, memoirs, travel writings, and translated literary and factual texts. In these representations, Japan was often portrayed as both a real and an imagined space, modified to align with the Bengali ideal of patriotism and as a symbol of Asian progress, in contrast to Europe. Concurrently, the Bengali audience could take pride in the knowledge that Japan still owed significant cultural elements such as Buddhism to ancient Indian civilizations. So it was a mix of both the understanding that Japan had become a much progressed country than the condition that Bengal was in, and also knowing or rather thinking that Japan still owed a kind of cultural depth to the ancient Indian civilizations uh, because of the Buddhism that went to Japan from India. However, these developments occurred throughout the end of 19th century and the first 3 decades of the 20th century. This presentation, on the other hand, will examine the perception of Japan within the Bengali horizon of expectation prior to the establishment of most of these deliberate ideological framework surrounding the country. It aims to analyze the portions on Japan in the travel writings of Pratap Chandra Mozoomdar and Krishnalal Bysack, as their accounts constitute the earliest first-hand accounts of Japan by Bengali travelers that are found till date. Their first visits to Japan were separated by only 3 years, and since they belonged from significantly diverse social and professional backgrounds, juxtaposing their perspectives can help us understand what stood out to each about Japan. Several prominent personalities from Bengal were among the early Indian visitors to Japan, including Narendranath Dotto, better known as Swami Vivekananda, the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, and the distinguished scientist Jagadish Chandra Bose. Within scholarly circles, Swami Vivekananda is widely acknowledged as the first Bengali individual to write about Japan and see Japan through a first hand experience during the 19th century. His brief sojourn occurred in 1893 when he stopped in Yokohama en route to Chicago to deliver his renowned address at the Parliament of the World's Religions. In correspondence recounting his short visit, Vivekananda expressed profound admiration for Japan, commending the country highly. Nevertheless, it is noteworthy that a decade prior to Vivekananda's visit, another Bengali traveler, Pratap Chandra Mojumdar, had already journeyed to Japan and experienced the country firsthand. Pratap Chandra Mojumdar was a prominent leader of the Brahmo Samaj movement. He arrived in Japan on December 12, 1883, and remained there for 10 days until December 21. Mojumdar was an important figure within the Brahmo circle and was known for his extensive travels worldwide through which he propagated the principles of Brahmoism via public lectures. Mojumdar's global journeys encompassed numerous countries, including England, Germany, Japan, China, Singapore, and the United States, marking him as a distinguished globetrotter of his era. His travel narratives were compiled in 1884 under the title Sketches of a Tour Round the World. This volume comprises detailed chapters chronicling his travels and encounters with notable figures such as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Harriet Beecher Stowe, and Max Muller, and his various activities during these travels. His work was largely centered on delivering lectures in diverse locations such as England, Scotland, Ireland, the United States, and Japan. The thematic scope of these lectures was broad, addressing topics such as Indian religious traditions, the racial composition of India, aspects of yoga, bhakti movement, Aryan monotheism, the historical development of Brahmoism, and social issues including the concept of sin, salvation, opium trade, and also British colonial rule in India. Mojumdar's text dictates 6 chapters. Yes, Mojumdar's text dedicates 6 chapters to his experiences in Japan, which was then only 15 years into the transformative Meiji period. Japan during this era was actively engaged in rapid modernization efforts aimed at securing a prominent position within international politics. Mojumdar's observations provide valuable insights into Japan's societal changes at a time when the country was reshaping its identity and projecting itself as a significant power on world stage. In the majority of the chapters within the book, Sketches of a Tour Round the World, he predominantly draws upon his first-hand experiences of various communities and individuals, such as when he talks about lecturing in America. He notes that none of the African American people who lived in America at that point of time came to his lectures. However, the sections that were dedicated to Japan, spanning 6 chapters, adopt a distinctly more factual and introductory approach. These chapters rely less on personal observation and more on objective information because this was a new country that he was introducing to his target readers, who were meant to be other upper class Bengali Brahmo members who had a knowledge of English and were interested in learning about other countries of the world. The chapter titled Through the Pacific to Japan opens with noting the considerable distance of 5,200 miles that separates San Francisco from Japan, because he was sailing to Japan from San Francisco after finishing a lecture tour there. Upon catching his first glimpse of Japan, the author expresses a poignant sense of nearing a homeland long absent from his life, referring to Japan as, and I quote, the sacred continent of Asia. His narrative then transitions into a depiction of embarking in the harsh December cold. Subsequent descriptions weave together broader discussions on the Japanese racial identity, religious traditions, and the process of modernization influenced by increased contact with Western nations, with observations of cultural artifacts such as jinrickshaws. This method integrates both empirical detail and his own subjective reflection. Mozoomdar further explores the historical integration of Buddhism into Japan and the complex and often tentative coexistence between Buddhism and Shintoism across different historical periods. The introduction of Christianity and its subsequent impact on Japanese society is also examined in the chapter. In another chapter titled Japan Modernized, the author provides a detailed account of Commodore Matthew Perry's expeditions in 1853 and 1854, which were instrumental in opening Japan to the West. Additionally, he outlines the political structure of the shogunate and the role of the daimyos in the society. He references to the Namamugi incident of 1862, which I found very interesting because these were the kind of old incidents that were not referred to or not even known by the other Bengali travelers who traveled to Japan in 20th century. So, as Namamugi incident was an event of conflict that reflected the tensions of Japan's initial encounters with foreign powers, he treats it with much care and mentions how it has kind of changed the way the foreigners saw Japan for a time. The chapter Japanese Wisdom compiles an array of Japanese proverbs, which the author attributes to English translations by William Elliot Griffiths. So there are almost 25 proverbs written in English for the Bengali reader, and he states that these are all Japanese proverbs, but he does not provide the Japanese version of the proverb because obviously he was not a person who learned Japanese. And all these proverbs were not things that he had heard during his travels, but these were taken from another book by, as I mentioned, William Elliot Griffiths. Griffiths, an American educator, was invited to Japan in 1870 by Matsudaira Yoshinaga, a daimyo of the Fukui domain, and he played some part in modernizing Japanese educational institutions. The Mikado's Empire, one among his several books on Japan, serves as a foundational source for Mozoomdar, underpinning his own experiences and providing a framework to introduce Japan to a Bengali readership. Even the explanation of the jinrickshaw is derived directly from Griffiths' text, including the memorable quotation, and I quote, that jinrickshaw is a baby carriage on adult wheels. This practice of consulting English language sources for information about Japan was widespread at that time, even among those who had acquired proficiency in Japanese and spent significant time in the country. For example, Suresh Chandra Bandyopadhyay, who stayed in Japan from 1906 to 1910, openly acknowledged his sources from Arthur Lloyd's Everyday Japan for much of his knowledge on Japanese politics and statecraft. So, in these proverbs, we see that how the the proverbs that say that a bigot looks at heaven through the needle's eye, which is an English translation of Harino Anakara Tenwo Nozoku, and the second one Sarumo Kikara Ochiru. So in these the first one especially, it nowhere mentions a bigot in the Japanese original version, but the English translation kind of adds it on its own to make the meaning of the proverbs more clearer to the target audience. Now we come to Krishnalal Bysack. Krishnalal Bysack occupies a significant yet often overlooked position in the history of modern Indian performance culture. His career coincided with a period of growing nationalist consciousness when Indian performers sought to challenge colonial assumptions regarding physical ability, discipline, and cultural achievement. The emergence of indigenous circus enterprises in late 19th and early 20th century Bengal must be understood within the broader context of the region's physical culture movement, which sought to redefine the relationship between the body, concept of morality, and national identity under colonial rule. During this period, concerns regarding the alleged physical weakness and effeminacy of the Bengali male, perpetuated by colonial racial discourse, generated a wide range of initiatives aimed at bodily regeneration. Within this ideological framework, figures such as Krishnalal Bysack acquired significance beyond the realm of entertainment. His circus performances and gymnastic exhibitions, such as his participation in the Paris Expo of 1900, demonstrated the possibilities of the newly emerging resilient Indian body, simultaneously challenging the colonial stereotypes and also falling into the narrative of the exotic body of the other. This emphasis on physical regeneration found parallel expression in the initiatives of Sharola Devi Chaudhurani, who promoted organized programs of physical training among Bengali youth in the early 20th century through activities such as Lathi Khela, which is a kind of martial arts using a staff, wrestling, sword exercises, and martial displays. Sharola Devi sought to cultivate courage, discipline, and patriotic sentiment. Her efforts formed a part of a wider nationalist project that viewed bodily strength as a prerequisite for political self determination. While the circus emphasized spectacle and public performance, Sharola Devi's programs focused more directly on character formation and collective mobilization. The recovery and reinvention of indigenous martial arts also played a crucial role in this process. The revival of Rai Beshe, of martial folk dance historically associated with warrior communities of rural Bengal, exemplified the search for culturally rooted forms of physical expression. Nationalist intellectuals and cultural activists increasingly interpreted Rai Beshe as not merely a folk performance, but as a repository of martial values and communal discipline. So, all these are part of the social scenario in which Krishnalal Bysack was operating as a part of different circus troops at different times during his long career as in for almost which went on for almost 37 years. So he was part of all of these ongoing trends, not trends or ongoing movements that was trying to figure out what the role of a new nation would be. These accomplishments established Krishnalal Boshak's reputation as one of Bengal's leading practitioners of physical culture, a movement that linked bodily training with moral improvement and national regeneration. These currents ultimately converged in the Brotochari movement established by Guru Shodoy Dotto in the 1930s. The Brotochari program synthesized physical exercise, folk dance, ethical instruction, and civic education into a comprehensive philosophy of national reconstruction. From an early age, Boshak demonstrated exceptional aptitude in gymnastics and physical training. Over time, he mastered a diverse repertoire of acrobatic and athletic skills, including trapeze work, parallel bar exercises, horizontal bar exercises, and balancing sets. As he set out to tour with Harrington's Circus in 1884 at the age of merely 18. Krishnalal Boshak first arrived in Japan in 1886, following a series of performances in Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, and various coastal cities of China. During his initial visit, he observed Nagasaki with particular interest, noting the ongoing efforts to repave and widen the town's narrow streets. His account highlights several distinctive cultural and social elements that he found of note, including the traditional wooden houses, the use of wooden geta footwear, the customary practice of eating with chopsticks, the etiquette of bowing upon meeting, and different things like that. Additionally, he remarked on the custom of applauding to encourage performers as well. After Nagasaki, the troupe traveled to Kobe and Yokohama to continue their performances. Boshak's observations extended to the agricultural practices he witnessed, such as the use of horses to draw plows across expansive paddy fields. Throughout his first visit, Boshak engaged in a conscious comparison between Japan and China. So when he is talking about how he saw the horses pulling the plow in the fields of Japan, he immediately refers back to how he saw that in China the buffaloes are used for agricultural work. This kind of comparison was also articulated by P.C. Mozoomdar in his literary work. This comparative framework, however, shifted in 20th century discourse, wherein Japan's rising geopolitical stature led to a reversal, with China being measured against Japan's evolving prominence, particularly in the eyes of Bengali readers, whereas before it was Japan being measured against China. By the time Boshak's second visit in 1894 in Japan, the tone of his observations had changed significantly. He refrained from direct comparisons with China and instead focused on the rapid modernization evident across Japan's urban centers. He noted extensive rebuilding efforts, with new wooden structures emerging alongside broad, newly constructed roads. An important development during this visit was the proliferation of newspapers, which had been absent during his first stay nearly a decade earlier. These newspapers actively advertised and reviewed circus performances, reflecting a burgeoning public interest and providing the troupe with a receptive audience. Notably, during this second sojourn, the circus performed in the garden of Shiba amidst the cherry blossom season, drawing an enthusiastic crowd. Boshak's subsequent visits to Japan occurred in 1909 and 1914, while touring with his own troupe, the Hippodrome Circus. From 1909 onward, a local manager assumed responsibility for logistical arrangements in Japan, including securing venues, managing ticket sales, and coordinating advertising efforts. During their 1909 stay, the troupe witnessed the devastating Osaka fire, to which he claims to have donated a day's earning in support of relief efforts. The 1914 visit coincided with the outbreak of the First World War, an event Boschak identified as marking a profound transformation in Japan's domestic and international standing. He observed that Japan had emerged as a significant force in global politics, a change that was manifest in both infrastructural development and societal progress, readily apparent even to the eyes of foreign visitors. The onset of the war, however, led to a decline in public interest in circus entertainment, resulting in the departure of some members of Boschak's troupe from Japan. Through these successive visits, Boschak's writings collectively provide an interesting lens into Japan's rapid modernization and shifting cultural landscape at the turn of 20th century. The differing objectives of Pratap Chandra Mojumdar and Krishnalal Boshak in their travels to Japan profoundly shaped their respective perceptions of the country. Mojumdar's observations were primarily filtered through a religious lens, leading him to focus on Japan's spiritual and religious developments. In contrast, Boshak concentrated on the everyday lives of ordinary Japanese people, making a notable retrospective remark as his book Vichitra Bhraman or Myriad Travels was published in 1921, much of a long time after all his travels had kind of ended and he has retired from his circus business, that during his initial two visits, neither he nor his fellow performers in the circus troupe were aware of any performative Japanese martial arts and did not know that jujutsu existed. The extensive body of Bengali literature on Japan, including memoirs, travelogues, translations, and studies on Japan's history, geography, imperial ambitions, and social customs, functions collectively as fragments of a larger puzzle. This puzzle represents an evolving Bengali attempt to comprehend a nation that was initially met with reservation but subsequently embraced as an exemplar of progress and modern nationhood across multiple aspects in Asia. As previously overlooked texts come to light and enter scholarly discourse, they promise to deepen the understanding of not only how Japan was perceived but also of the cohesive identity that Bengal sought to construct for itself during this period. This dual process of external observation and internal self definition reveals the intricate interplay between colonial era intellectual aspirations and shaping of modern cultural and national identities in Bengal. By examining these two specific narratives, this presentation sought to explore a part of how Japan's modernization and cultural resurgence resonated with not only Bengali thinkers and reformers, but also the general Bengali readership and general Bengali travelers. This resonance was not merely coincidental, but rooted in shared aspirations for national revival and emancipation from colonial subjugation. In this way, Japan became more than a distant land for Bengali readership. It evolved into a symbol of possibility and inspiration during a critical period of cultural and political awakening. I will conclude here. Thank you all for being here and listening.
Thank you very much, Ankana, for your fascinating and informative presentation. We shall now move to the open interaction session. The lecture has highlighted several important themes, including 19th century Bengali travel writing, early Indian perception of Japan, cultural encounters, modernization, and historical foundation of India-Japan relations. I'd now like to invite questions, comments, and observations and suggestions from the audience.
Dr. Das, can you see if any hands are raised?
No, Sensei.
Well,
Hello?
Hello. I have raised my hand.
Oh. Oh, please, Sensei.
Sudipta, I think you can, you ask, please request Dr. Jain to
May I?
ask.
Yes, Sensei, please.
Yeah, Dr. Das, with your permission. I think it's a wonderful lecture. Thank you so much. To me, the combination of the conceptual understanding, the comparative reading of the travelers, fascinating in itself. But I think another very interesting fact is the small information bits that you have given. For example, donating one day's circus earning to the relief is a small information, but extremely important information. Similarly, the information about the cost of education. So I think your lecture has very good, deep, meaningful information also. So while I appreciate very much the comparative thing and conceptual thing, I think the information content is also so good that we would not like to miss the written part of your, because that I think needs to be preserved. Yes, so that's all. Yes, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, I like to add to Dr. Jain's comment.
Please.
Anakana, you have highlighted some untold aspects. These narratives you don't find in the mainstream discourse. And this is the objective of Kizuna India-Japan, to highlight these, untold stories which go behind this. And now you told us about that he was keeping an account, the budget and everything. So we would, I mean, it is so interesting. Was he keeping the account in yen, or was he keeping the account in rupees, and was he converting it? These are very fascinating aspects which we never know. Similarly, in our last seminar, Amrita Satpathy, she had mentioned about Bharat Kar's, visit to Japan, and he also kept account details of his expenditure, etc. And then you also mentioned about Jin Rickshaw. We have heard about Jin Rickshaw. We also saw sketches of Jin Rickshaw by later writers, especially Ratanji Framji Setna. In his book, he has made a sketch of Jin Rickshaw. But that book was published in 1905 and in Gujarati. Now, according to you, that means P.C. Mozoomdar is the first to mention about Jin Rickshaw. So I would request you to write one paragraph about these stories, I mean, you have gone deep into it, but in academic papers, research papers, you don't read about all these things. And this is what is very fascinating to us. So Anakana, I would request you to please write 1 or 2 paragraphs, and we would like to publish it. And also, I mean, we'll also write your name, contributor's name, and also please write the source of the book, I mean, wherever you. So that is our request to you. After,
Sure, ma'am. I
after
would love to do that. Yes.
yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
May I?
Yeah, yes, Sensei. Those
Hello, Sudipta.
nice thing.
Hi. Anakana, thank you very much for such an interesting presentation today. I'm Sushma Jain.
Hello.
It's not a question actually. My observations, what impressed me I was impressed by the two travelers was the common thing that they appreciated Japan's spirit to absorb Western technology and maintain their own, like work on your side.
Yes.
Yeah. You are muted, Sushma.
No, she's frozen.
Yes, he's
Am I-
pausing.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Streaming is stopped.
Now she's
Okay. Okay.
Mozoomdar was also impressed by that, and I think you said that Krishnalal Bysack also was impressed by the Japanese people, how they could commercialize their theater in modern times also. The kabuki is still watched.
Yes.
Even after modernization in Japan, people watch kabuki. So these two things is common between the two people, that they were impressed by the Japanese spirit of absorbing Western technology and preserving their own identity as Japanese and their own culture. I just wondered if their impressions, because I think Rabindranath Tagore went later
Yes. In
to Japan.
1916.
So did these things anyway influence his visits or pave a way? In a way, I just wondered.
Yeah.
Krishnalal Boshak's text did not come out until 1921, which was
I
kind of
see.
like decades after his travel. So
Okay.
Rabindranath had
Yeah.
already traveled before that. In 1916, he went to Japan for the first time. And
Right.
as for Pratap Chandra Mozoomdar, his text of his own travels was not as much circulated or known among the Bengali readers as for his rather than his other famous text, the Oriental Christ. So he is basically known for that text, the Oriental Christ, in which he talked about Jesus Christ and a comparison between Brahmoism and Jesus Christ's preachings. But his travel writing did not get that kind of circulation or that kind of reception, as far as I know. So before Rabindranath went, there were already a lot of periodicals that were publishing regularly publishing articles on Japan. There had been topics like games in Japan, ways of hair tying in Japan, and of course the Russo-Japanese war, the Russian-Japanese war. That was also a big topic. So it was Japan was a popular topic where many people shared their experiences and translated texts of already existing Indian English texts. But I don't think that these two particular travelers had any influence on Rabindranath Tagore.
Thank you.
Well, I'm still tempted to say, I must say that it's a
Can I
fascinating
ask a
paper.
question?
Yes, of course.
Can I ask a
Hi,
question?
hi, Okada Kuno Igarashi Sensei. Dozo.
Hi, I'm Masumi Igarashi from Okayama University. Thank you so much for great presentation, Kana-san. And I was amazed because only a few decades ago, we didn't know, mostly Japanese people didn't know there were so much accounts on Japan in India. And because of the Kizuna organization and Sushila sensei's, Jai sensei's effort, we now know so much. We know so much about Indian account on Japan, and your presentation added another two other accounts on Japan. And thank you so much. I would like to thank you for that. And I have two questions. First question is very close to Sushama Sensei. These two books, are they really how popular are they? I mean, you said in case of Mozoomdar, he had another account and which is more popular than this one, but is that circulated much? What kind of readership did these books have? Do you know about that? Like
Yes.
readership,
Thank you, ma'am, for the
popularity?
questions. Please continue. You had a second question, or should I answer the
Oh,
first
yeah.
one first?
Okay. Please answer the first question.
Okay, thank you. So, as for Krishnalal Bysack, his text was in Bengali and written decades after his circus business had come to an end. So, for that particular text, he says in the preface that all the people who knows me and my family and friends, they wanted to hear more about my travels, so that is why I wrote this book. But so it had a kind of initial readership of the Bengali learned people who knew Bengali, but after that this book kind of went into obscurity, and it could only be found out very recently when another a re-edition of the book came out in 2022. I found this book as part of a list of travel writings that talked about Bengali travelers who had traveled to many countries. Since my own PhD is on the globetrotters of Bengal, so I was looking for travelers who had traveled to many countries. So this name came up there, and when I looked into the list of countries where he had gone to, I saw that Japan was in it. So before that, I also thought that Swami Vivekananda was the first Bengali person to visit Japan and write about it. But that misconception was broken by kind of this not discovery, but I found it out that he had also gone to Japan, and then I saw that his account is also important for to show a Japan of 19th century. So when it came out in 1921, it had a limited readership, after which it kind of went into obscurity. And for Pratap Chandra Mozoomdar, his book, as I said before, that the travel writing one was written in English, so that was intended for a bigger kind of audience. That not only those people who know English, who know Bengali, but specifically those Bengali people who knows English, as well as other readers whoever wanted to read it and had the knowledge of English. But even then, that book too kind of slipped into obscurity, and until now it had not had any new re-editions or reprints after it was initially published in the late 19th century.
Okay. Thank you so much. And the Krishnalal Bysack's book is republished recently. Why? Is there
Yes.
any reason?
Currently travel writing has become in older travel writing has become a kind of field where people are trying to figure out the old find out the old text that had existed, to see how the other countries were seen during that time, which is why I mentioned that Japan was the only East Asian countries where such a large number of Bengalis had gone. As far as I have researched, that larger number had not gone to China or Korea. Only Japan is the country where that number of people had been and studied, or just gone for travels and visits as a tourist. So as that kind of what would I say, academic interest is re-emerging. So books from that time are also getting republished in the 21st century.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you so much. Can I go on to my second
Yes.
question? Yeah. In those accounts, do you find any like personal interaction with the Japanese people, like a politician or Bysack was in circus business, so probably he had some interaction with the local people, local organization to host the performances, or in case of Mozoomdar, you said he delivered a lecture. Where did he deliver the lecture? Like a university or any religious institution? I just want to know any, not just, they had a objective observation, but did they actually have the interaction with people and, any relationship or friendship or anything? Do you find those description in the books?
Well, for P.C. Mozoomdar, Pratap Chandra Mozoomdar, he delivered lecture in Tokyo University. And as for these two particular instances, they both of them did not know Japanese. So, and they did not stay for very long either. Pratap Chandra Mozoomdar stayed for 10 days. And even though Krishnalal went to Japan 4 times, which he recounts in his books, but he does not talk about any kind of interest to learn Japanese or any kind of interaction with local people on a very personal basis because of this language barrier. But other than that, there are other books in Bengali of students who had stayed in Japan for 4 or 5 years, who had very a large number of personal interactions, what I would say that kojin tekina interaction with the Japanese people. So one even had stayed with a Japanese family where he notes that the old aged people in Japan, such as an old woman that he met, the mother of his landlord, were very much active and had strong opinions about the condition of the country, the ongoing political scenario and everything, which he found to be very refreshing and different from the old age people in Bengal, who he notes that they are not active, and especially the women at that point of time did not have or were not very much encouraged to have opinions on things that are considered quote unquote bigger than them, such as the politics or the social condition. So there are examples, but not these two particular texts.
Oh, I see. In case of Mozoomdar, he delivered it at Tokyo University. Is there any host professor or anything? Like, he can't just go there and talk, right?
Yes. Well, he was invited, but all these fine details are not added inside his book. But as he gives a list of places and dates when he delivered these lectures, I believe it would be possible to find out the Japanese people who had invited him and had perhaps hosted him and had provided him with a translator and everything.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's interesting. Thank you.
I think you are a storehouse of fantastic information. I'm so glad that Sushila was able to locate you, because even this last comment of yours, I mean, surely Tokyo University has excellent archives.
Yes.
So, excellent. I think it is mine to dig. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited. We should have a seminar all by yourself. It is so much. Thanks.
Sudipta Amrita Satpathy has also raised her hand.
Amrita-san, dozo. Amrita-san.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Hi, Anakana. Hello, everyone. Namaste from Amrita.
Yeah,
So,
namaste.
Namaste.
yeah. Ankana, a very impressive presentation and amazing elucidation of the experiences of the Bengali travelers in late 19th century. I just have a few clarifications. I missed first part of your presentation. So, can you just tell me how did these people travel? Like, is it by ship?
Yes. PC Mozoomdar, Pratap Chandra Mozoomdar traveled from San Francisco to Japan, and usually Krishnalal traveled to Japan from China. He usually went on a route of Java, Sri Lanka, Singapore, then China, and then he would go to Japan in all the four instances when he went.
All right. So does he give references to all these places that he visits, or
Yes.
it's directly? Or he also talks about the passage also from point A to point B. Right.
Yes,
Right.
that is why his text is not just focused on Japan, and it is not usually included in Bengali travelers who have talked about or written on Japan, but because it has only a specific portion allotted to his experiences in Japan, and it is the same for Pratap Chandra Majumdar as well.
Okay. And my next question is the travel is Bysack's travelogue is called Vichitra Brahman. So why does he use the word Vichitra? Because Vichitra is exotic or something different. So it's very interesting that a person from the east uses this word Vichitra. Even in Odia we have. So I'm an Odia. I'm from Odisha. So in Odisha also we have Brahmana and Vichitra. We have the same thing. And even in some of the Odia travelers have also used similar words. So why do you think they have used when culturally we are so similar to Japan in many ways? So how is this? Has he explained why he has used the word Vichitra, or what
He
is
has
your
not really.
perspective on it?
He has not really explained it, but I could infer from the accounts that he had given that all the countries that he traveled to, he looked for things of novelty, things that were very interesting to him. And he was perhaps, I think, that he was perhaps the first Bengali to travel to Australia as well at that point of time. So in Australia, he visited the Chamber of Horrors, which was an exhibition where all kinds of uh, I would say gross. I would say all kinds of strange and violent artifacts are on exhibit, such as mannequins of a murderer committing a murder. That is also put on exhibit. So he looked at it, and he was thinking that why would people want to exhibit such stuff for public to see? So I think all of these experience would consolidate into the word bichitro. So that is why I try bichitro would in a way translate into English as strange or exotic, but I specifically wanted to not use those words, which is why I used myriad travels to translate it.
Right. Or it could be peculiar or
Yes.
unique. It could also be that. So Vichitra for us is also something that is different in a positive way, not the way the Occidental and use it to describe the East. So it's not that way. Okay.
In fact,
You
I
are
came
any
across one Bengali scholar who told me about Vichitra Brahman, that the name itself is so exciting. He wanted to, make it very exciting so that people read, because it contains novel aspects of Japan, something very sensational and exciting aspects of Japan.
right.
So that is why, and he told me that, so what a appropriate title for this book. So I
True.
suppose, yes, it contains very interesting aspects. In fact, Ankana, please, if you go find that book, I mean, please give us some stories from that book. and which we can publish.
Any sketches of the circus?
Yes.
Not really sketches, but there are specific photos of the Hippodrome circus, which is the circus that he owned personally. I don't think there are photos of the circus with which he traveled to Japan, because those were
I
very
see.
early circuses.
I
But
see.
circus was an important aspect of Bengali culture at that point of time, so there are photos from other circuses as well.
Ankana, I'll ask.
Sorry.
Yes, sir, please go ahead. I'll ask.
I was asking Igarashi-san, at that time, do you think there would be any reporters and so on, or newspaper articles that would have pictures?
Newspaper. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
the circus posters or whatever. Because you said the newspapers had come by that time.
He does mention that in Japan, for his second visit in 1894, there was a lot of newspapers where many reports had come in, and they were advertising in those newspapers as well. And as for Bengali newspapers, yes, there are a lot of accounts of circuses and their advertisements, some of which are compiled and added to the newly reprinted book of Krishnalal as well, under the title of Praise for Bysack.
Any name of the newspaper?
Amrito Bajar Potrika is
No, in Japan.
Oh no, he as he did not know Japanese, he could not mention the name of the newspapers.
Yeah, probably you can dig into the Japanese newspaper archive, and you can find some more on how Japanese people reacted to the expected about their performances. That would be a great addition to your book.
Yes.
Sushila Sensei,
had a question.
Any other participant want to question or suggestions?
Amrita, you wanted to add something?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask Ankana, did he write about how the Japanese felt about the Indians performing in the circus? Any perspective from their side as to how they looked at this troupe?
Well, he mentions that there had always been a considerable interest in Japan, and when they performed in the cherry blossom garden of Shiba, at that point of time they drew a large crowd. But he also mentions that all of these decreased when the First World War began. At that point of time, they were also in Japan, and they saw that how gradually the people started coming less and less. And then his troupe also broke up partially, and people left. So he had to come back from Japan and take a kind of a long hiatus from touring due to the First World War.
Right. Thank you. You are indeed a storehouse of information. You should write a book. This will be so interesting. Well done. Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Sudipta, I think we are running out of time.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for the stimulating questions and thoughtful responses. The discussion has clearly demonstrated the significance of travel literature as a valuable source for understanding cross-cultural perceptions and the historical evolution of India-Japan relations. We shall now proceed to the concluding remarks. Thank you very much, Ms. Anakana Bag, for your insightful and thoughtful provoking presentation. Today's lecture has highlighted an important yet often overlooked dimension of India-Japan relations. Through the travel accounts of P.C. Mozoomdar and Krishnalal, we are able to revisit the period when Japanese modernization attracted the attention of Indian intellectuals and reformers. These travel narratives not only documented a foreign country, but also reflected broader questions concerning identity, progress, culture, and nation building. The presentation reminded us that the history of Indo-Japanese relations is not limited to diplomatic exchanges or well-known historical figures. It is also shaped by individual travelers, writers, scholars, and cultural intermediaries, whose observation created bridges of understanding between the two societies. I'd also like to thank the participants for their active engagement and stimulating questions. The discussion clearly demonstrated the continued relevance of historical travel writings in understanding cross-cultural interaction and the intellectual history of Asia. On behalf of everyone present, I extend my sincere appreciation to Ms. Anakana Bag for sharing her research with us today. I also express my gratitude to Professor Sushila Narsimhan, Dr. Bysack Jain, and the Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum for providing this valuable platform for academic dialogue and friendship between India and Japan.
is also one of the
Sorry, Sensei?
Marsha Das will be attended here.
Well, I'm
Barsha,
Okay, so now let me wrap up. Thank you very much, Anakana, for enriching our knowledge about these early cultural interactions between India and Japan. While there exist a lot of works on P.C. Mozoomdar, because he was a scholar and as well as a leader of a very prominent Brahma Samaj, and he wrote in English and he was a globe trotter, but very few knew about Krishnalal Bysack, and especially how he popularized India's physical culture abroad. In fact, such subjects have received very little scholarly attention. And in November, we are going to have a seminar on P.C. Sarkar. So he was a great magician, and how he went to Japan and showcased India's traditional magic. So you must attend. And thank you so much, Sudipta, for chairing the session and for your insightful comments. I would also like to thank all the participants for their interest in Kizuna activities and joining us via Zoom. The 28th lecture is on 25th July by Dr. Himlal Ghimire from Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu. And he will be speaking on Buddhist heritage, pilgrimage, and soft diplomacy, reimagining Japan South Asia civilizational connectivity. So please try to attend. And all the lectures are available on YouTube, Kizuna India-Japan Forum, and the MOSAI website. So see you in July. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, ma'am.
Namaste.
Lovely. Bye.